Hello, hello. Hello.
Hello.
Hey, Ben. Oh, you finally showed up as Ben Maher.
Hello.
I had to mute. Yeah.
Hey, guys.
Hey, how's it going?
Morning.
Morning, morning.
Morning.
Oh. It's not morning for you, it's like middle of the day.
Yeah, it's noon. It's noon for me.
It's later than that, isn't it? Isn't it one?
No, I'm just on this side of the shift. Of the
Oh,
time.
really?
Yeah, it's on Chicago time.
Midwest time. Oh,
Okay, maybe we should get this thing started.
cool.
Cool. So Ben, you were first on the agenda.
All right, perfect.
Yeah.
So Ben and Ben wanted to chat briefly about some metrics stuff. Is Ben on?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet. Hey, Ben. Should I kick it off, Ben, or do you want to?
I guess you can. Like, do you have something you can maybe project to?
Do you want to use my computer?
No, let me start without, and then I can go grab my laptop if that makes sense.
Okay.
So I'll start. So the context was we want to add more metrics around lib process, and I don't know if Greg Mann's on, but that'd be good because I know he's also adding a bunch of framework-specific metrics, and I know there's other metrics changes that are being considered and thought about right now as well, especially around exporting. So Vinod, you might have a bit more context on that one. And so when Ben and I were chatting about adding metrics, there were specifically for the processes, for the actors running in lib process, there were a couple things that came up that we wanted to run by the dev sync and get feedback. So the two big ones that I wanted to throw out there. So the first one was not turning on metrics by default for all the actors, because it could be actually a lot of metrics that we start to collect. And so the conclusion that Ben and I came to for that one was, after looking at a bunch of other libraries as well, that the right thing to do would to basically have a flag when you run any lib process binary, where you can specify the actor names, the process names that you want to actually collect metrics for. So you can say, like, collect them for master, collect them for log process, collect them for fetcher, whatever processes that you want to collect metrics for, you could specify that. And then you could just change it on every single run as well. You got a question, Gilbert?
Yeah. So you mean at every single run? So could the user or operator to change it by hitting some API during the runtime, or they need to restart?
Yeah, so the idea was for the MVP that we would make you restart, but that ultimately we'd make it so you could hit an API event as well. But to keep things simple to start, it would be you have to restart. And then the other aspect of that is, ultimately you might want to use like some kind of a regular expression to be able to specify which actors to match against to collect metrics for. But we also just thought that for the MVP, you can specify the full actor name, and I think that's going to be a majority of what users might want to take advantage of to start.
The actor may contain some index, like dynamically generated index, right?
Right, and that's exactly when the regular expression, I think, is going to be really important. So I think it would probably be a fast follow that we'd want to add the regex stuff. It's actually very easy to add the regex stuff, but when Ben and I were chatting about it, there might be some concerns with regex being properly supported across all compilers and standard C++ libraries. Does anybody actually know about that? Does anybody know if because Bennett suggested that actually we tried to use some regex stuff in the past and we ran into some issues. Does anybody on the call remember that and can speak to that?
I just have a vague memory that there were some issues somewhere at one point.
Okay. So I mean, the regex stuff is literally super easy, and we could even start with that as the MVP, which I agree, Chun, then that's going to be critical for specifying those actors that have IDs generated for them.
Chun, is there actually actors that have IDs like that you're interested in monitoring now, or you're just calling it out?
Isn't the slave one of them?
Well, it's always. I think it's always going to be slave or slave one.
It will be
in production.
Oh, in production. Yeah. In production probably.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So, what is the problem you're trying to solve? Is that there are a lot of metrics from a lot of actors that's overwhelming clients or overwhelming the actors, or what's the motivation?
No, so sorry, let me make sure I start again. We want to add metrics for actors. We've got, we just don't have, we actually do not collect any metrics for any actors, and all actor systems out there do that.
Okay, so these are a different level of metrics you're talking about, not...
These yeah, sorry. These are things like the total number of HTTP requests that are NQ'd versus DQ'd.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering, you're talking about allocator metrics and master metrics.
No, yeah, sorry, no. I mean, all the other processes have their own metrics, but the lib process, there's no metrics coming from lib process itself around the actors.
Got it. Okay, these are lib process level metrics.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
Hey, Ben, I have two questions.
Yes.
For the MVP, how would an operator know the names of the actors?
Yeah, so I mean, the idea would be in the MVP that we would, as part of the documentation, we'd share with people, hey, if you want to collect the metrics for the master, these would be the actor names you'd want to write down. If you want to collect metrics for the, whatever it is, these would be the actor names you'd write down. And so we would just give examples to start.
Or can we just
that sounds reasonable.
Or can we just have an endpoint to list all the actors?
We already do have that endpoint, and we could also point people to that as well and say, if you want to see all the actors that are running, so that you can decide for the next run which actors you want, here's how to get that list.
It would be nice to have a description for each actor. Right now, it's just like a name. Who knows what that means? There's some very weird name for actors. It would be nice in that endpoint result that you have a name of the actor and also have a description, like a human readable description of what that is.
Well, okay, it's not free to do that, right? How many bytes per actor are you going to need? If you want to have a lot of actors, it can add up. I guess the question is why? In my mind, if you're going to monitor an actor, you have to have an understanding of why you're doing that. So you're either going to look at code, or you're going to use someone else's guidelines on what actors are good to monitor. And in a product like TCOS, you'd probably have some things already set there for you that we've judged to be good defaults, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have two ways, right? Either using documentation, like this actor name and the description of that actor is in some documentation, or you embed it in the code. And your worry is you embed this information in the code, the performance is not good. I want to understand why. Is that just the memory cost?
Yeah. I think even having long ID names with human readable stuff in there has a cost. If we ever want to show the throughput of our actor system compared to others, that's actually going to be a penalty in ours.
No. You just show the description in that endpoint. You don't show that description in the in the metrics endpoint.
Right.
I'm talking about like spawning actors.
Yeah, the
like if you
name doesn't have to be.
I guess what do other actor systems do, like Akka and stuff? Do they have a concept of name or description?
They have a concept of name, and they also have this concept that Ben and I were just talking about, which is you specify which actors you want.
Well, what name are you referring to, Ben?
The name of the actor.
ID.
Like the class and like the class path and class name?
No. Like the name of the actor. Like in our case, it'd be master.
Okay, I don't know what they do, but in Erlang, your ID is like a numeric thing.
Oh.
And you can associate it with a name separately for message passing purposes. Like you're like, send this message to the quote master unquote actor on this address without needing its actual PID. But in Erlang, the PIDs are like very compact and numeric. So they didn't do the same thing that we did.
Yeah, I mean, our IDs are both can be well known or can be dynamic if you add the dynamic ID.
I'm just pointing it out because like having these long strings as IDs is not free. Like we have to do string comparison when we're trying to figure out, or do string lookups if we're like looking up an ID, and that's significantly more expensive then.
But what we can do is have a description in the class level, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we could.
That's what I'm suggesting, not like the other way, like having embedded in the ID.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it could be like static storage, I think is what maybe you're suggesting.
Yeah, that's my suggestion. So that in the endpoint, you can at least see the description of that actor. Or you can have multiple instances, but they all have the same description. You don't need to show that multiple times.
I also think though that for an MVP, I just don't think we need to do that just yet. I think
it seems like an orthogonal thing to me.
Yeah, it seems really valuable, and I think we could totally do it. But I think we can put something out there where organizations like the folks that are on this call right now just know which actors they probably want to collect metrics for, and they can start doing that, and then we can follow up and add something which gives people that have no idea which actors they might want to follow.
Okay, but you guys will add documentation.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Exactly. Yeah.
So my second question, Ben, was whether you're also proposing to do some aggregate metrics by default for the process. For example, like current count of actors, current count of messages, or the length, current total message queue length, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So the very first MVP. Oh, go ahead, Ben.
No, it's okay. I'll go after.
The very first MVP that Ben M and I have been talking about are just for the actors and just for the HTTP endpoints. That's it. So that was going to be the MVP, James, just those two. But again, we can follow pretty quickly with other lib process metrics. I just think this is actually a good venue to talk about that and get feedback from people about which metrics we think we want to add. I will say one thing, which is the second question I wanted to ask. So the first question was, how do we feel about the instrument, basically deciding which actors we want to instrument, which is again what like Akka and a bunch of these other things do. And it sounds like that's what Ben M and I kind of landed on. And sounds like there's good consensus. People feel good about that. We just need to make sure that we either document it well or give people a way to find out which actors they might want to get metrics on. But the second question, and then Ben, I think you had something to say in response to James, but the second question that I wanted to bring to this forum was, what's the best way to name the metrics? And so anyway, so I do want to get to that one because I want to get feedback from folks. But Ben, why don't you say your thing, and then questions we'll get to the naming.
I was just going to comment on the particular metrics that James suggested, but I guess we can do that when we actually go to add those.
Yeah, I mean, what's in scope for right now, James, is not that. So it's not that we don't want to do it, it's just that's not in scope for the discussions we're having right now.
Right, it makes sense. Well, I guess the model I had that I think I would probably do is that I would probably look at aggregate metrics for something, right? I'm looking at some kind of aggregate metrics of message processing, message throughput or something. And then I would go, oh, that's interesting. And then then that would cause me to want to drill down more into to find out what specific actors are doing. So that's the sort of analytic framework that I had in mind.
Got it.
Right, that's what I was thinking too, and I guess it's not clear to me yet that per actor metrics makes sense. I guess I'd like to think from the user's perspective what the user is interested in gathering. Maybe aggregate metrics would be sufficient for people to get what they need. I'm not sure, but to me the MVP would seem more like aggregate metrics, and then moving on from that we can combine stuff at a per actor level.
I guess I don't follow what do aggregate metrics mean?
Just sum them all up together.
Yeah.
Like
for example, like a gauge for the current count of actors, a counter that increments every time on every message dispatch. So you could tell, oh, are we processing a lot of messages, right? What is the throughput?
That's actually what I was going to comment on, James. I'm surprised that you're suggesting gauges.
Well, I guess the queue length has to be a gauge, but the message throughput would be a counter.
But would you not want to just have the actual amount of enqueued and dequeued messages and compute the size yourself? Like you can't see throughput with total current enqueued messages, right?
No, so I'm thinking about two separate metrics. One metric that I suspect would be useful would be a counter that increments every time a message is dispatched. So that tells you the rate at which messages are being processed, or
enqueued.
The rate at which they're being dequeued.
That would be enqueued, I think. Dispatched.
Also, enqueued. I'm thinking of enqueued being put on the queue for someone to come and process later.
Right.
Yeah. So
and then if we gave you dequeued, you'd have size as well because you just subtract them, right? I'm wondering, if you'd also want that third metric, which is current size.
Yeah. Let's pause for just a sec. So because there's two things we're getting into depth of that. So one thing is just whether or not we'd want to have system-wide, metrics versus just the actor metrics. Again, from the projects that Ben and I looked at, there are some system-wide metrics, but there's just a couple of them. But then there's there's the actor level metrics, and it seems like that's what most people are going after, is they actually want to be able to get metrics for what's happening within the individual actors. So I think we can look at adding a couple of them. I just pulled up the ACA stuff here, and there's I think 4. There's number of active actors, number of processed messages, number of unhandled messages, and number of dead letters, which doesn't exactly attract to us. So I think we could, if we wanted to, add a couple of just system-wide metrics, but I think a lot of people are going to be caring about what's happening within the individual actors pretty soon, which is why we focused on the metrics for the actors. And then I think what James and Ben were just talking about is, do you want to have a gauge for something like the number of messages that are currently in the actor's mailbox, or would you want to have 2 counters? One counter, which is the total number of messages that have been enqueued, and one counter, which is the total number of messages that have been dequeued. And Ben and I chatted about this as well, and Ben's suggestion, and I like this suggestion, is to have two counters, one for enqueued and one for dequeued, because that provides strictly more information that lets you actually do things like look at the rate of enqueuing and look at the rate of dequeuing. Whereas if you just have a single size, which is a gauge, which goes up and down, you can't get that rate information that some other metrics system could plot for you.
Yeah, I'm fine having the two counters without the gauge.
Yeah, cool.
It also applies to the total actor count. I would prefer to see like total number spawned and total number terminated.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it makes sense. Yeah.
Not so convinced on that one, but I think
we could compute active based on subtracting, or we could do that subtraction for you and expose it as a gauge. But
I think it's more convenient to get a gauge for that particular case.
Yeah, I mean, we could expose that gauge because it's just a subtraction of the two counters, right? But
yeah, we could. I actually propose that for which actual metrics people are interested in, we can move that discussion to the dev list and just we can hash it out, like which metrics are people interested in us exposing. The last question that I really just wanted to ask, and I'm sorry I'm pushing this, I just have to leave at 10:30, is what about the namespacing? And again, Ben and I chatted about this, and the proposal is that we put all these metrics, libprocess-wide metrics, namespaced under the metrics prefix. So like metrics / blah, blah. And the reason why this is a non-obvious question is because historically what we've done is we've told people to put metrics as like their actor name / the metric name, or actor name / the other prefix / the metric name. So we could do that. We could, for the specific actors, we could put the actor name / the metric name, but Ben and I don't like this conflicting with people's own metrics they might be creating. And so the idea is that we put all these metrics that libprocess is creating namespace under metrics / and then any other potential prefix followed by the metric name. So that was the other question I wanted to raise.
If the problem is about avoiding name conflict, how about use a more specific prefix other than just metrics?
Do you have a suggestion what another specific prefix would be?
Like processes or like underscore or something.
Right. So the idea is that it would be so for the processes metrics, it would be metrics / processes / process name / the metric. So that would be the full thing for.
Do we need the matrix prefix?
Well, we don't. We could just do processes, but the reason why we were thinking about putting metrics all the way in the front is because it matches the current pattern of like people putting metrics owned by actors as the first thing.
Oh, and you are going to have a new actor that's
No, there already is an actor called metrics, and so they're like.
I see.
Inside libprocess, we're just not going to clash. It's just not going to, like, we know we're never going to conflict.
I see.
Whereas
in case that we already have an actor for that, maybe just use that.
There is an actor. It's not the one that actually owns those, but yeah, I mean, the reason that, like, the alternative that I think Ben was initially suggesting was you'd find all the masters Q related metrics directly under master /, and you'd find the allocator ones under allocator / because it's just going to use the process ID as the first part. That might be fine for the actor related ones, but for routes, I personally don't really like the idea of coupling routes to the actors that currently are responsible for those routes. Like, if we refactor things in the future, like this happened once on the agent, I think we had a thing called monitor, and there's a route for that. And we refactored it so that actor doesn't even exist anymore, but we have to preserve that route name because it's an API. Now there's no actor for that route, so it becomes weird to say that all routes have to do with actor names.
Yeah, I agree.
And I would rather decouple things so that we can refactor code, and as actors change, like our API doesn't change. And in that sense, like it would be nice to have routes namespaced in some way, like routes slash, and then the route, and then the metrics. So I don't know if processes need to be namespaced in the same way, but I guess you could use the same idea with like master metrics, like maybe master becomes less of a clear actor in the future. Maybe it's like a whole bunch of actors sharing the work, and there's not one master actor anymore, but those metrics have to stay the same names, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the basic idea is just to use the top level metrics prefix name as like the lib process, if you will, system-wide metrics prefix name.
We could probably replace that with lib process as well, right?
We could replace it with lib process if folks would feel better about that name. So one of the reasons why I wanted to bring this up is because I know for whoever's thinking about doing the exporters, the metrics exporters for other formats, like when it comes to naming, what they've learned and what makes sense from a naming perspective. Like, have we learned something specific about how we should be thinking about naming the metrics? Do we have any other insight there that would be helpful?
I think the biggest thing that I've heard was we should not put like dynamic names into metric keys.
Yeah.
Like a lot of systems do not work well in that model, a lot of metric systems.
Can you elaborate what you mean by dynamic names?
Like, for example, for our per framework metrics that we recently added, we, for example, put in the framework name and framework ID in there, in the metric key name. Which is really hard to dashboard. I think most metric systems expect the names to be more or less well known, the metric key name, and then this dynamic thing should be tags kind of thing. And I think we do not have that kind of support in our metrics infrastructure. Something that's probably necessary if you have to really support different metric systems, I think, collection systems. Or we have to write all these intermediaries that do the transformation.
Yeah.
The Prometheus is the only thing that has tags, right?
Datadog too.
And they have a stats.d extension that also supports tags.
Yeah, I think that in the context of this, that doesn't apply.
Well, yeah, the method, so the message that you dispatch could be a tag instead of part of the key name.
Sorry,
what?
Sorry, Gaston, can you say that one more?
So for these metrics, the name of the method or of the message that is dispatched would be a tag and not part of the key name.
Like the type, like HTTP versus dispatch versus.
You could say dispatch and then name of the method. Or
we're not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, we haven't talked about doing metrics at that level just yet. We've just talked at a higher level, like just how many messages versus how many HTTP requests. But I hear what you're saying. I was wondering. Have we done anything where we've tried to basically take some of our metrics and convert them to metric name plus tags?
Yeah, there's message exporter that does that for Prometheus.
Okay, and did we come up with a standardized like mapping that we can like apply back here? Some learning that we can apply back here?
There's an ongoing thread in the dev list about how to normalize metric names.
Okay.
Because they can contain spaces and any other symbols, so we're discussing that.
Okay. That'll likely have some influence here. Okay. Anyway, I got to jump. This is what I wanted to use the first 20 minutes. So thanks for the questions and feedback, folks.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben.
Thank you.
Sweet. So I think the next thing we were going to talk about was Yorgo is going to give us an update on MesosCon.
Yeah, as Gaston answered when I asked him whether he wanted to do it. So I can do it. So Gaston and myself, we're mostly planning a MesosCon right now. The goal is first week of November. I think it's 5th till 7th in New York City. We looked at the venue in Brooklyn to kind of keep prices down, but it's a really nice hotel. I think it's the Marriott Brooklyn, which has enough space and also seems just from like the price ratio for staying there kind of reasonable. And we have to finish up some more details but expect like a notice shortly. We reached out to a number of you to just have like a broad kind of like committee, at least for content around. So people, a lot of you should have gotten emails from either myself or Gaston over the last weeks. So as said, the goal, we talked about it a few months back already, is to kind of make it again more MesosCon, to focus more on Mesos community. And I hope having this broad, diverse content committee, PMC, helps towards that direction. Any questions?
Do we have the timeline for, or the deadline for CFP?
We'll share that as soon as we have kind of like the final confirmation on the venue. And the other thing, if you're on the Apache Mesos PMC, you'll probably get an email shortly from myself, because we actually need your approval that we can use the name Apache MesosCon. So once we have that sorted, we'll send out the CFP, or we'll first send an email just informing, asking, hey, everyone agrees, and that'll include also CFP deadlines.
Sounds good.
If you want to be involved in the discussion sheet, let either me or Gaston know, and we can just give you access to the Google Sheet.
Yep. Sounds good. Any questions?
Yep. So would you be able to send that email to private list? Or will that be to the private list?
Yes, that's my idea, to send it to the private list.
I don't know if you have permissions.
If I can send it, Gaston will just send it. He should have permission.
I think he can send it, and then he cannot see the answers unless he sees it. Like, we have to be careful when we answer to that email.
Yeah, I don't think he can send it.
Well, if he can, then I will send it in his name with his permission.
I think y'all could send it, because I haven't been subscribing for the private list for 1 year. And I sent some email.
Okay, this is a technical detail. I said either Gaston or myself will send it. Yeah.
Cool. Looking forward to it.
Cool. Thanks so much for your patience, and just trust us. We've been doing a lot of work in the background to get this going.
Nice.
Cool.
Thank you, y'all.
So Gaston, I don't know if you wanted to talk at all about mixed workload scale testing. If you do, feel free. If not, we can give everybody a little bit of time back. So, yeah.
I don't have that much about the whole story, but I do have an example of how the per framework metrics look like. We ran a test yesterday, and I could show them and the dashboards that we have.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
For anyone or not.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Okay, then I can share that. Can you see?
Yeah.
Oh, all right. So We did some tests yesterday, and we had many marathons running in that cluster. We call them MOM, marathon on marathon. And we enabled the new per framework metrics that are not on master yet, but we use them anyway for this experiment. And I wanted to show you what kind of things it's possible to see with these metrics. It's possible to see how many API calls each framework did. The same for events. You can see the rate of offers, and then you can see how many were sent, how many were accepted. And that's like an overview for all the frameworks. And then I will choose one of these particular MOM instances and show what the possible breakdown is. Again, I haven't prepared any of these. I just thought it would be a nice chance because I have these dashboards open. So feel free to ask anything during this. I will just go over the dashboard.
Hey Gaston, can you clarify what MOM means in case some folks aren't familiar?
Oh, I think I just said it's marathon on marathon.
Okay, sorry.
It's just a marathon framework. You can't forget about MOM, just think it's marathon, and that there are multiple ones in this cluster. So it's possible to see the offers rate, and we have a breakdown by sent, accepted, declined, and rescinded. So if someone is complaining about not getting, or about tasks not being launched, we can see if the framework is starved or not. If we see that there are not many offers being sent to the framework, then we can look at this part here, resource filtered, and then we can see why the allocator filtered some resources and they must have didn't send any offers.
Is it just me, or the video is kind of stuck?
Is frozen.
Okay.
Yeah, Gaston, I don't think we are able to see your updated screen.
I will stop sharing and start sharing again. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
Try again. Okay. Do you see it now?
Now it's black.
I see it for what it's worth, but it's still in the same page that you originally started.
Yeah, I just scrolled down. So there should be an offers rate and then resource filter.
I can only see a black screen with this message: Gaston Kleiman as start screen sharing. But no.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Report back for Zoom.
Okay. Let me try sharing my whole desktop now. What about now?
Still black.
Yeah.
Okay, then let's leave this for another day. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to.
Yeah, I think if we're not going to be able to walk us through them, then that's fine.
Can you try to just rejoin, like shut down the Zoom and rejoin again?
Okay. See you in 1 minute or less.
Zoom, why?
Greg, are you still online?
Yep.
So while Gaston is trying to logging, I have a question about the graph we just see. Like for the offer sent and offer accepted, why is the count kind of big at the first 1 or 2 hours, and then it become like much more smaller and flattened?
So you're talking about the counter API calls?
Yeah. The count of the offer sent and the count of the offer accepted.
Do you see my screen now?
No.
Gilbert, TLDR, I'm not sure.
I give up.
Okay.
I mean, I can give this URL to anyone else at Mesosphere, and then they can show this.
Yeah, if you want to send it to me, I'm already joined, or anybody remote.
Okay. Give me 1 second then.
You can send it to me to Gaston.
Are you in the VPN? You need to be in the VPN to see this.
Oh, I'm not. So
Okay.
maybe
I'll be the best person. All right. Let's see. This seems to not, I don't think I can open it. I don't think I have access to whatever I need for it. Gaston, sorry.
Okay, we'll do it another time.
Yeah, we can put it on the agenda for next time.
Is it just asking for the password or?
No, it's actually not directing me to a website. Oh, maybe, hold on one second. Notebook to experiment with HTTP API? No.
I mean, just send it to me then, Gaston.
That was Ben Mara, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Is it HTTP?
Oh,
no?
I think, why do we have space here?
It's just missing the H at the front.
Yeah.
Yeah, you missed the H, and then you need to change the space to a dot, I guess.
It's just adding the H at the front, sorry. Just
That's fine.
No. Won't be in Google.
Gaston, could you send it again?
to who now?
To Judy.
Here, wait. Oops. Oh,
Okay,
here we
there
go. All right, we're in. This is very exciting. All right. Oh, I guess I'm just gonna. All right, here we are. I'm just sharing the screen.
Okay, can you click on Mom there?
Click where?
So there's start on the left. It's a third from the top.
Oh, Mom.
Yeah, that's what I was sharing. So you can scroll down.
Yep.
Open one, any of those, yeah. Okay, that's what I was trying to show. So if you scroll, where are you now? Yeah, there. So that's fine. Okay. You can see the offers, right? As I was trying to show, there's a breakdown by sent, accepted, declined, and rescinded. Then if you want to figure out why offers are not being sent, you can see why resources are being filtered. That's in the one on the right. There are how many? There are 5 reasons why the allocator could filter resources. One is because there's a filter, which is called decline here. So a filter was created when the framework declined an offer, or because it's a GPU resource and the framework doesn't have the right capability. The same for region-aware frameworks. Well, you can see the reasons there, basically. The one that you see below that is a suppress gauge, so you can see whether that framework is suppressing or not, which can have performance influence. Or in this case, Marathon doesn't suppress anymore. That's something that the people working on Mesos at Mesosphere learned recently. It used to suppress before, and then they did a change, and now we're trying to get them back, like to suppress again. Another interest metric is the call rate breakdown by type of call. So you can see how often a framework is killing, accepting, shutting. Well, shutdown shouldn't happen very often.
Is that the one on the right here? This
yeah,
one?
that one on the right.
Okay.
So there you could see if there are any spikes in kill or anything like that, and then you could kind of try to figure out what's going on with what that framework is doing. So when a framework accepts an offer, they can pass many operations there. So we have another metric or other metrics showing how many operations of each type were sent by the framework. That's the operations rate that you see below. And we have also a breakdown for events, task status updates sent to the framework, how many tasks are in each state. And that's basically basically. So there's an open chain right now with these metrics. Greg is working on them, and I just wanted to give you an overview of what they are, what we want to expose, and why we think they are useful, how you could use them. Are there any questions? Okay.
Cool.
No one has any questions.
All right, nice. Well, if nobody else has any questions, then I think we're done. Thank you very much, Gaston, for presenting that. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
See.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
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 Bye.